Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about the 1985 fantasy adventure film Wizards of the Lost Kingdom. And the film's main character is Simon, who is the son and student of Wulfric. Wulfric is the court wizard in the idyllic kingdom of Axholme. But Simon's peaceful life is not to last. Egged on by the treacherous Queen Udea, the evil sorcerer Shirka murders the king and imprisons his daughter Aura. Like the king, Wulfric is slain in the coup d'etat, but before he dies, he does manage to give Simon a powerful magical ring and teleport the young boy out of the castle. Unfortunately, Simon loses the ring during his escape, and so his quest to save the kingdom and rescue Princess Aura must seemingly rely only on his own rather limited magical prowess and on the combat skills of Kor, a warrior Simon meets soon after his escape. As Simon and Kor begin the long journey back to the castle, they will face dangers including insectoid monsters sent by Shirka, a family of Cyclops with a grudge against Kor, and wicked practitioners of black magic. So rarely has a film's promotional imagery, such as the image on your screen right now, made so many promises that the movie has no intention of fulfilling. I saw this movie back when it came out because it was a fantasy movie and I was a fantasy tragic who repeatedly rented no budget titles that I'd never heard of in the hope of stumbling across something that was actually good. Uh, I recalled this movie being one of the many disappointments of that hope and as a pretty bad movie overall, but on the rewatch it emerged that my memories were egregiously rose tinted because this is several orders worse than merely pretty bad. The film's list of flaws can be boiled down to a very short list. One item, in fact. Everything. But while that's absolutely true, it's not very informative, so let's dive in a little deeper and explore some of the most serious issues with the Wizards of the Lost Kingdom. Starting with what is probably the biggest. The production of this film was a mess on every front, and the writer Ed Naha later recalled when they whittled it down of what was useful from the footage they shot, it only ran 58 minutes, which is obviously not enough for a feature film. Unfortunately, producer Roger Corman, master of cost-saving antics, had a simple solution. Yank a bunch of footage from some of his other earlier films, primarily Sorceress and Deathstalker, and edit them into this film wherever they would fit. The fact that Wizards of the Lost Kingdoms was clearly pitched at a family-friendly PG rating, and those earlier movies had both been R-rated sex and violence fests, would not be allowed to stand in the way. The resulting unsubtle padding stands out jarringly in both visual style and tone. The main sequences of this film have a deliberate orientation towards a slapstick, PG-rated, kid-friendly adventure with lots of silly pratfalls and other comedy tropes, and then there are inserted scenes which are much more grim and intense. The film is plagued with nonsensical moments, partly as a result of the clumsy editing job, but honestly, I suspect the script had plenty of problems even without that factor. Here's an example. And fair warning, I'm not going to worry about avoiding spoilers for this bit because, frankly, I don't think knowing this will in any way lessen your enjoyment of the movie. It's hard to get less than zero enjoyment after all. In any case, the example. Late in the movie, Shirka and Queen Udea turn on one another, as villains are wont to do. Shirka magically binds the Queen and is on the edge of killing her, but then he doesn't and just wanders off instead. At which point, a servant rescues Udea, and then they both follow Shirka, and on meeting him, they stare at him for a bit, and then he kills them after all. So what was that all about? Except possibly, we have this footage, so dang it, we're going to use it. Now, another production failure occurs with the creature costumes. For instance, Simon has a big furry friend/pet, how intelligent it is isn't really clear, named Gulfax. If you imagine Chewbacca, if Chewbacca was an overweight white poodle, you've got some idea of the overall look. As Simon's pretty much constant companion, Gulfax is in a lot of shots, and in every single one of them, it is patently clear that the performer stuck inside the costume has almost no ability to do anything more than stand there awkwardly, hoping he doesn't trip over. And the other monster costumes are no better. Now, the problems certainly don't end there. Wizard of the Lost Kingdom has some of the worst action staging I've seen in some time, and the acting is not much better. It's a failure on pretty much every front. Except the commercial front, that is. It did well enough on video, no doubt due to fantasy tragics like me, that Corman would produce a sequel a few years later. But let me tell you, this kingdom should have stayed lost. Next time, the urban fantasy TV series Motherland Fort Salem, which ran for 3 seasons starting in 2020 and follows the story of 3 young witches who were conscripted to serve in the US military. But that is next time. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you've had the misfortune of seeing Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, let me know what you thought of it.